let me go back to that concept. What I was saying is, so we have a natural tendency to avoid pain and seek pleasure. Now, if it weren't for that, right? If it weren't for that, we would always do what's in our best interest. I mean, think about it. Why in the world would you not do what's in your best interest? Now, here's what I mean by best interest. What's going to give you the greatest amount of happiness over the longest period of time? Right? That, in my idea, is balanced happiness throughout a lifetime. The greatest amount of happiness, fulfillment, enjoyment over the longest period of time in a way that's sustainable, in a way that's enjoyable. So, however, and if craving and aversion wasn't an issue, then the day you discovered that it's healthier to eat fruits and vegetables than it is to eat Fritos and cupcakes, you would stop. And you would simply eat, the things that will make you naturally slender, will help you live longer, right? The day you find out that, too much alcohol is not good for you, you would stop, right? The day you decide that exercise is needed to sustain your body over a long period of time, you would instantly do it, right? And you would never waver from that. It'd be very easy for you to do that. So, what happens is, though, since we have the tendency to avoid pain and seek pleasure, then what happens is, it's like we come to this crossroads, right? And everyone can relate to this. We come to this crossroads in our life all the time, and it's like, okay, down this road, down road A, is what I know is honestly in my best interest. And down the road B is what's going to feel good now. Or what's going to, it'll be less painful, right? Like, we all know that we need to do our taxes, but we constantly, yes, you're cringing, we constantly avoid doing our taxes because we perceive pain with doing our taxes, even though we know it's in our best interest to do our taxes, right? We all know it's in our best interest to work out and exercise and keep our bodies young and flexible and healthy, yet the majority of society avoids it because they perceive that it's going to be uncomfortable. If that wasn't an issue, if we weren't sorting by what's going to be comfortable or what's going to help us avoid pain or what's going to feel good, then it would be very easy to go about and do what is in our best interest. What's going to give us the greatest amount of happiness over a long period of time. We'll be able to think more long term. So part of the training that we do with people is teach them how to reframe the way they think about certain things that they have in their mind categorized as uncomfortable. Like, what would it be like if you could actually learn to enjoy working out at the gym, on one hand? That's very important. You want to maximize enjoying and getting pleasure from the things you have to do anyway, because then it makes it very easy to do that. Yet at the same time, kind of the shadow side of that is, I want my clients to learn to not avoid an uncomfortable sensation. Okay? And here's what's really important about this chapter 1. All this stuff that we do, and if you look at what we want to do, what we don't want to do, all this kind of stuff, if you look at a deeper level, what's driving that is the craving and the aversion, is the fear of pain and the seeking of comfort. So if you go to the next level beneath that, if you imagine a certain comfort level that you have in your body, right? So in other words, when you think about going to the gym and you don't want to go, there might be a certain amount of physical discomfort there. If you get out of your head and your story about it, and you just simply notice, how does my body reacting to this idea, you'll notice there's a certain level of discomfort there. That may be identical to the level of discomfort you have when it comes time to choose a healthy meal versus Kentucky Fried Chicken. Not for you, but for some people, right? It's like, gosh, because they really feel they want it, so they feel that same type of sensation in the body. So here's what's cool about it. The reason I want my clients to become aware of this is what's driving the behavior. It's not all this story stuff. That is a compensation. It is the sensation that they're either wanting to move towards or wanting to move away from. So if they start to work with that sensation, if they start to learn how to expand their comfort zone of the sensations they feel comfortable in, right, then what happens is, not only does it help them go to the gym more easily, but it also at the same time helps them choose better foods. At the same time, it helps them get their taxes done, because they've now expanded their ability to kind of hang out in that sensation, and they're not so instantly automatically wanting to move away from it the minute they perceive it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. They actually welcome it. So by teaching someone to notice actually what's going on in their body when they think about a goal, when they think about doing what they need to do or what's in their best interest, by noticing what's in their body, it's much easier to start to work with that. And what's great about it is when you work with the physical sensation in the body, it'll transform 25,000 things in your life. Wow. Not just trying to rethink one. However, in a balanced perspective, you do both. Why not? It makes it a lot more fun. So you can spend time reframing all that other stuff, but just realize underneath that, right? So I love teaching people how to have fun going to the gym, and that's really easy to do, right? If you think about how good you're going to feel when you get off the exercise equipment, if you think about how wonderful it's going to be the healthier, slender you, if you think about how good it feels to feel that kind of what I call the soreness of satisfaction after a good workout, right? You can focus on those things, and you'll get more of that, and that'll be very easy, and it'll be very easy to pull yourself towards that, right? But most people think about all the painful stuff at the gym, and so they just avoid that. So I always believe in directing your thinking. Focus on what you want. Focus on what's going to be enjoyable about it. But at the same time, just accept reality. You will get tight around certain things. And if you simply get out of your head, notice the sensation going on in your body, and start to work with that, then wow, you've got a lightning fast way to move ahead. That's where the transformation occurs, is when that physical shift in the body. Otherwise, you're fighting yourself. Like with smokers, we want them, at the end of 2 hours, to literally change how they physically feel in their body when they think about smoking versus not smoking. And we literally shift it. When they come in here, the pull is to smoke. When they leave here, the pull is to stay away from them. So they don't have to think about it. It's automatically programmed in the body. So when you work with both, when you're aware that both of these mechanisms are in play, you want to set up your reality so that you naturally win. You naturally, even if you don't work with sensation, will move in the direction you want to go. But at the same time, ultimately, you want to work with sensation so that you are able to move towards what you know is going to bring you the highest quality experience over the longest period of time, what is going to serve you the most. That is the biggest obstacle to success, is fear of discomfort. Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, it really is great. Super. It's really super. That's a great way to start this book. Okay, keep going.
But I want them to know, either in the introduction or in chapter 1, there are a lot of, this is the only big concept to really get in the book. Once you've grasped this concept, everything else is going to seem like a piece of cake. And at the same time, you do not need to grasp this concept in chapter 1. Don't worry about it. What I want them to do is to take the exercises and play with them.
Right.
And in playing with the exercises, right, they will get an experience of what I'm talking about. And the experience is what will cause them to get it. It is not something to be understood intellectually. It is something to be experienced. It is like riding a bicycle. Once you get on that bike and you ride it and you feel it, you understand it. And until then, it's all theory. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I want to show them what's happening and then have them go out and have the experience. Now, if I'm in a teaching environment, what I actually do is I'll do it the flip side. I'll give them the experience first.
Okay.
And then I'll unpack the experience.
For example?
For example, I'll have a client think about something that they know they should do they've been putting off, right? I'll have them picture it in their mind. And I want to show them the top level. I'll say, notice what you're picturing, right? Is it bright? Is it dim? You know, what's in the picture that you're making to yourself? What does it look like? How big is it, right? So some people will imagine an obstacle like this huge Mount Everest, right, in the midst of a huge snowstorm. And when they think about it, they imagine themselves very tiny. They imagine the obstacle very large, and they instantly feel overwhelmed. And so if that's how they're picturing it, of course they're not going to want to do it. If they picture it unappealing, they're not going to want to do it. When couples are fighting, and let's say a client comes in and she's very upset with her mate, I'll say, picture your mate in your mind. And of course she's picturing him in the most unappealing way that you could imagine.
Lying and snoring.
Yeah, he's snoring, his butt cracks hanging out, right? There's food and trash all over the house, there's socks on the floor. She's not picturing the guy who showed up for the first date on her doorstep. The guy that got on his knee in a tuxedo and asked her to marry him. She's not picturing that. She's using very selective vision. So, and here's what's important to notice. In this selective vision, there's two pieces. There's the content, literally what they're picturing. You change the content, you change the experience. But there's also the form. There's how they're picturing it. A lot of people, when I ask them to imagine a happy time, if they're depressed, what they'll do is they'll literally, depressed people always look down because that's where you look to access talking to yourself. And what they'll do is they'll sit there, a depressed person will think about all the things that aren't working in their life, and they'll think about, this date they didn't get 12 years ago, they're 15 pounds overweight, they have a bill due to Yahoo Internet or something like that. They'll think about, the person who was mean to them last week, and they'll think about all this stuff, and they'll put it all together in a big sandwich, and they'll think about it over and over and over again, and they'll work themselves up into a depression. That's a really great strategy. It works really good for that. That's an example of content. Now, if they just took different content and did the same strategy, imagine what it would be like. And I love to do this with depressed people. I said, well, look, you have a great strategy. So what would it be like if you sat down and thought about everything in your life that you absolutely love and are excited about, and then you put them all together, and then you thought about them over and over and over again? How do you think you would feel then? And they go, God, then I'd feel incredible. I said, so great. So the strategy is excellent. The content is lousy, right? And there's a million different ways you can go with this in terms of dealing with the upper level, the mind level. The next thing you can do with the client is you can say, well, and here's one thing we'll do, is we'll literally reframe the problem. I say, boy, you're great at getting depressed. Like, you could teach a class on it. You're that good. This is your strategy. You think about all this stuff. And I had one client who was in here a couple weeks ago doing this, and what was funny is her life was so good to get herself depressed enough to binge eat, which is what was going on. She would literally have to borrow content from her friends' lives. Because her life was so good, she'd literally have to steal content. And I always tell myself, well, look, you can always find more content on Fox News, or any news station. Just watch the news for a while. You can think about what's happening in Cambodia, what's happening in North Africa. You can always find stuff to depress yourself if that's what you're going to do. But guess what? If you're doing it, be excited about it. Enjoy it, because you wouldn't do it if you didn't get a benefit. You wouldn't do it if you didn't get something from it. There's always a benefit. And in NLP, we teach people that every behavior starts with a positive intention.
What's the benefit of being depressed?
Well, think about it. So let's say a person is feeling, and this is just one example, it could be different for everybody, but let's say a person's really feeling sorry for themselves, right? Poor me, I'm never going to be able to lose the weight. I'm never going to be able to get ahead at work. I'm never going to be able to get what I want. I'll never find my true mate. This always happens to me. In the passenger seat of their own car watching life go by. But what's great about that? See, if you can have a client celebrate what they're doing and appreciate it for the fine result-producing strategy that it is, several things will happen. So I'm leaving you with a cliffhanger, and I'll come back and explain the benefit. Here's what will happen. If the client realizes they're actually getting what they want, and that they are in control of what they're doing, and that it's a very powerful strategy, they feel powerful. They realize, they start to get the experience, not just to understand, but the experience of, because I walked them through it, that they're in control of their lives.
And they realize it when they're doing it.
And then they feel comfortable taking control, because they realize, hey, look, what I'm doing right now is working perfectly to get me the result I'm getting. It's working like a gem.
Yeah.
So, since I'm getting what I want, let me really think about what I actually want. Like, how is this really working out? Let me take a look at it. Maybe it's not working out quite the way I expected it to originally, So maybe I'll do something different. And because I already know I'm powerful, I know I'm in control, and I know I can get the job done, maybe I'll try something different. So back to depression. What's great about feeling sorry for themselves or making up excuses or feeling powerless? Well, number one, they don't have to take any responsibility in their minds. They tell themselves, well, I won't have to take any responsibility for this. B, I don't have to do anything. I don't actually have to change. I can keep sitting here on the couch watching TV because, hey, it's not my fault. It's life happening to me. Some people do it because they get to feel self-righteous. Some people do it because they want to get attention from others. People love to commiserate with one another. People find it naturally easier to connect with what they dislike than to connect with what they like. They naturally feel more authentic connecting with what they dislike. Do you ever notice when someone shares something with you that they don't like, you suddenly feel like they trust you more?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? It's our natural tendency because we always think those are the things we're not supposed to talk about. Those are the things we don't want people to see, right? So, but every behavior has a benefit. Every behavior. If you look at your life that way, now, is this absolutely true? I don't know. But if you look at your life that way, you literally fall into a position of power. You come into your power. And what you can find is that every behavior that you do that you don't like, beneath that is a positive intention. Take that attitude, inquire, investigate, and ask, hey, how is this serving me? What am I getting from this? Because what you'll realize is that this is not you. This is a pattern of behavior. That's it. It's a pattern of behavior. And a pattern of behavior is like a suit that you put on. And when it gets uncomfortable, you can take it off and go and do something else. Right? A lot of smokers love to believe that they're addicted, that they can't quit, that it's happening to them. They have no control over it because then they don't have to do anything. They don't have to change. They don't have to feel discomfort. Perceived, by the way, discomfort. So again, we change the way the mind's working on top so they perceive less discomfort with the change and more pleasure with the change, right? That's kind of a Tony Robbins type approach. And at the base level, we have them realize that sensation is what's driving the game. Craving and aversion. Craving and aversion. This has been around since the dawn of time. Why do we go to war? Craving and aversion. I'm afraid if I don't go beat up this tribe over here and steal their land, then I'm not going to have the land. Or they may get too powerful. Or they may come and get me. And I don't want that to happen, so I need to get them first. Fear-driven. Craving and aversion is at the base of it. So in the coaching process, in the system, I want people to become aware of how their thinking is manipulating their life and how to manipulate their thinking. Now, the term manipulation means to move with precision and skill. That's the actual dictionary definition of manipulation.
Okay, what is it again? It means
to move with precision and skill. Okay, a chiropractor will manipulate a spine into alignment. So that's similar to what we do, is we will help the person get clear on the ultimate goal, help them get grounded in reality with where they're at. That's another fundamental piece of the change. For example, if a person is not grounded in reality, it's very difficult for them to move forward. But most people don't want to see things as they really are. They just want to focus on what they want, because they think they perceive pain with accepting where they're at. But guess what? In experiencing the reality of where you're at, in allowing yourself to feel that and get grounded in that, it's like striking oil for motivation. It is unbelievably like striking oil. But most people are so terrified to do it. Why? They think it'll last forever. They think it will never go away. They think they'll never be able to escape that if they feel that. They don't want to look at it. I always tell smokers are masters of denial, because they know it's the number one cause of preventable death in the world. They know if they continue to smoke, they will die of a smoking-related disease. So they push that out of their mind. They refuse to look at that reality, so that what they can do is they can continue to stay in this little comfort zone, perceived, and it's only a perceived comfort zone, which is why we can shift that perceived comfort zone, so all that stuff doesn't matter anyway. But that's why they stay there. It's insanity. So what I do is I get them grounded in reality when they come in here, just like I did with this gentleman out here. I said, look, you know it's the number one cause of preventable death in the world. I said, do you know that between the ages of 30 and 40 you are 5 times more likely to drop dead of a heart attack than a non-smoker? Do you know that every time you take a puff, your blood pressure goes up, your heart rate goes up? These are true facts. Why? Because your body detects as poison, and it beats faster trying to push the poison away from your vital organs, which constricts your blood vessels, which causes vascular damage. This is happening in your body right now. And you get them very grounded in reality. I had a woman in here on Monday who was a heroin addict. Yeah. 35-year-old female with a college degree, comes from a good family with a total heroin addiction. And I looked at her dead in the eye and I said, look, you've only got 2 choices. You can die or you can get off this immediately. I said, it's one of the two. I said, name any heroin addict in retirement that you've met. There are none. I said, basically you have 2 choices. You will, if you continue to do this, you will die. Or you can die or you can stop right now. It's like one of the two. But I want you to get, you're dying right now. You are literally dying right now. You are poisoning your body. And it's not working. And that's the other thing, it's not working. Like smoking doesn't relax people, it makes them anxious. Overeating doesn't soothe people emotionally. It distracts them. That's all it does. I tell people, smoking to try and deal with a problem that would be like me, let's say I get in a fight with my wife, I don't want to deal with that, so I smash my thumb with a hammer. That'll take my attention off my wife for a little bit, but the problem doesn't go away. The problem's still there. It's not going anywhere. When you argue with reality, you lose, but only always. That's Byron Katie. Look, I can go out to 101 with my hands over my eyes and try to pretend there's no cars there, and if I do that, I will probably get hit by a car. Right? If the person continues to smoke, if the person continues to work themselves into the ground, if the person continues to ignore something important in their life that they're not dealing with, it's not going to go away. And so I want to get them grounded in reality. Hey, look, here's where you are heading right now. A common example among, let's say, small business owners. One of the most common things I see happen, okay, let's say marketing. So imagine you have a wheel of life for your business, and one aspect is your marketing, okay? A lot of people are terrified of the perceived discomfort with going out and doing what they need to do for their marketing. Okay. And so what they'll do is they will.
About sales?
Yeah, let's say marketing. Let's say a person is trying to build their business, and some of these hypnotists, one of their strategies is to go out and put brochures in a doctor's office. So what they'll literally do, this is what it would look like if someone was watching them on a hidden video camera. It's like they're literally trying to drag themselves in the office, throw the brochures, and run out the door as fast as they can, because they are terrified of going and introducing themselves to the nurse practitioner, to meeting and building a relationship with the doctor, to developing a relationship with that office, to showing them what they can do, demonstrating in their behavior, in their knowledge about their field, showing them suggestibility tests for hypnosis, educate. They're terrified of doing that. Now here's why do you think they're terrified of doing that?
Because someone might say we don't need you.
Fear of rejection.
Yeah.
Okay? And the reason people fear rejection is they believe that that's going to actually mean something about them. Right? They believe it's going to mean something about them. And that would make them aware of something that maybe they don't want to feel about themselves. And you know what's interesting about it is we don't actually fear rejection. What we really fear is having someone mirror back to us something we don't want to see about ourselves. And if I said something that you have always thought about yourself or been afraid, anything you beat yourself up about, if I line up with that, you will perceive that with pain. And so what this comes down to again is they're like afraid of this sensation that's in their body. It seems like it's just like something that's going to mean something about themselves, but really what it comes down to is there's that, but there's also the sensation in their body. They don't want to feel uncomfortable. And they perceive, gosh, well, what if I go there and I get rejected? And they imagine that in their mind. And what if they say, oh, we don't want your services, you're a clown, you're a fraud, you're a charlatan, hypnosis is fake, or whatever. They imagine all that stuff in their mind, okay, which isn't reality. This is what their fear is. They're projecting their fear. And then they literally feel, just like when you watch a really good movie that makes you laugh, you watch a funny movie, you laugh. You watch an emotional movie, you cry, and you feel that. You watch a scary movie, you get a little bit scared. So they make this scary movie in their mind, scary/depressing movie of going in and approaching the doctor. And of course that's a great strategy for running and throwing your brochures and hauling ass out the door, because they're terrified. So the way I would work with someone like that is help them first become aware of literally what they're doing in their mind. What are you picturing in your mind? You haven't even gone in there, so you haven't gotten rejected. Right? You haven't talked to anyone, so they haven't said no. All you see is this doctor's office with some people sitting behind a desk, who are human beings like you, who want love, appreciation, respect, and kindness like you. If you remember that, they'll respond to you well. Very simple strategy. But what are you picturing in your mind? If you picture that, of course, you're going to be terrified. If you picture something else, like what if you pictured going in and shaking hands with the doctor? Imagine the doctor saying, oh my God, we've been looking for someone to help our clients quit smoking. Thank God. Come on in. Imagine that. Of course, it's going to become a lot easier because it's not going to feel so uncomfortable.
Suddenly you're needed and wanted.
Yeah. So, two things you want to address. You want to address your thinking and make sure your thinking is in line with your goal, because it's not reality anyway, so you might as well picture what you want. Okay? And then notice what you're feeling in your body and learn to hang out in a little bit of discomfort. And those welcome that discomfort. What feels like discomfort is just tightness in your body. There's a way you can work with that. That's where the letting go technique comes in, right? So what you do is you notice the tightness in your body, and what you do is you want to continually on the inside be opening to the tightness. Literally, do not avoid the tightness, because then more of your body gets tight. You want to literally, when you feel tightness, take your attention, start to go to the center of it, like to find the nucleus. Just start to kind of move towards the center. And at some point, what you'll do is, if it's something that's really uncomfortable that you don't want to feel, at some point you'll kind of stop, and you'll know you're stopping because your breath will kind of halt. You'll go, that's where your edge is. You want to back off a little bit and then just kind of breathe and breathe. And what you want to do is you want to just kind of relax just a little bit more into it, just a little bit more into it, just a little bit more into it, just a little bit more into it. And you can gauge that by your breathing.
So the physical exercise.
This is what you can also do, and I always recommend people do this, because this will take care of a zillion of those things.
Wow.
That will take care of one instance. This will take care of a zillion of those things. So if you do both, you will naturally get in the habit. If you consciously practice picturing what you want, making it big, making it bright, making it compelling. Imagine them going, oh, thank God you're here. Imagine it going really well. Imagine it, like we're like, you and the doctor become like best friends. My dentist is the dentist for Evel Knievel. When I went in there to get my checkup this week, he comes in, shakes my hand. I've helped his son quit smoking. I've helped his niece quit smoking. I've helped several of his patients quit smoking. This guy thinks that what we do, and he even said it, his exact quotes are, you are the real deal.
Yeah, good job.
So I said to him, hey, you know what? We just found out that we can help you build medical codes for when you tell people to quit smoking. And I'd like to offer a staff appreciation day for your office. Come in, bring everybody lunch, show them some hypnosis tricks, teach them a little bit about, help them understand a little bit more about what it is. And he said, man, we'd love to do that. Talk to Denise, have her set up for January. So that's an example. If you imagine that, how easy would it be to go and form a relationship with the next person? And see, most people in business are terrified. They want to sit in their office, rearrange their paper clips, and avoid anything that they perceive would be painful. Yeah. And that is their biggest obstacle. That is what's holding them back the most. salesman, professional environment. They know, most of them know exactly what they need to do in order to be successful. Sometimes they need strategy, yes, right? But most of them will have a very clear path of what would at least get them more successful than they currently are. But why aren't they doing it? Because when they imagine it in their minds, the way they're imagining it, they perceive massive pain, and so they avoid it. They find something else to do. They make up an excuse as to why they can't go on that sales call today. They suddenly come up with something that's more pressing than making those phone calls. They avoid it. Does that make sense? Okay. So, and you can see that in every professional career. Software engineer can avoid learning something new over here that would improve the quality of his life. Or he can just work so much that he can avoid taking care of his physical health. Right? Some people will distract themselves with one life area to keep them away from looking at another life area. I have a lot of corporate people that come in here obsessed with their career, want to work on their career. And when we start to do an assessment, we find out the biggest part of their life that really is calling for change, of course, is ironically the same part of their life that has the most pain for them right now. They're totally avoiding it. They're totally avoiding the relationships. Exactly. Or people will come in here and they want to talk about everything but their finances. Why? Because their finances are the biggest source of pain. Well, if that's the area of your life that if you spend just a little bit of time in, let's say you had 15 units of energy, if you put it into that area, that's the area that would transform the overall life the most. So I want to get them grounded, and the first thing is providing a safe way for them to get grounded in what actually is. And what I do is I take them there to that edge. I literally will take them to their edge with the language.
What do you mean by take them to the edge?
I'll take them to their edge. In other words, I will start to give them bits of reality. Bits of reality.
Like you ask them questions about how is this going, how's that going, and you know it's going to be bad.
Exactly. In other words, if a person, whatever the issue is, I'll start to get them grounded until I see them get tight. Yeah. And then I'll have them notice that they're tight. And then we'll back off a little bit. Have them hang out there. Here's what's cool though. If you notice your edge with things. So let's say you're in a social situation, and normally you would bail after a few minutes, right? So let's say normally 10 minutes is your limit. Well, if you kind of go there and you start to get that nervous feeling at around 10 minutes, well, imagine if instead of just instantly bailing and reacting to that, you said, hey, look, let's see when this nervous feeling comes up. And then you just kind of hang out with it and see what happens if you hang out with it. Maybe you hang by the door for a little bit. You don't actually leave, but you hang by the door a little bit. And what you want to do is you just want to kind of start to hang out with that kind of nervous feeling a little bit. And what you'll realize is the more you hang out with it, the more you realize there's no need to avoid it at all. The more you realize you can be okay in the midst of that feeling being there. And as you start to just kind of hang out with it and breathe, you'll notice, you'll go, wow, I can now hang here 11 minutes. And now I can go 12 minutes. And now I can actually, you know what, maybe I'll go up and introduce myself to someone new. And so what you're doing is you're not pushing yourself well beyond your capacity where you freak out. You're feeling your edge and you're hanging out at your edge because that expands your capacity to be in what we call sensation. It expands your capacity to feel okay in the midst of doing these things that in the past you perceived as uncomfortable.
Or if it comes to finances, for example, you don't want to just feel good about the fact that your finances are a mess.
No, of course not.
You want to feel comfortable enough to go look at it.
Yeah. The reality of it is you'll be okay in the midst of total bankruptcy if it comes to that. Because you'll have to go through it, and it'll be scary and terrifying, and it will suck, and it will hurt, and you'll be fine. Right? You can be okay in the midst of that. You have the ability to do that. Would I recommend that? No. What I'd recommend is, the thing is really what the person's avoiding. It's not, no one, again, you want to align it up with your ultimate goal. If your ultimate goal is to be bankrupt, yeah, you really need to work on being okay with being bankrupt. But really, if your ultimate goal is to be financially secure, be honest with yourself. People who come in with financial problems never want to look at their finances because they perceive pain with it. And what happens is the more they check out and don't look at like the credit card bill, the bigger it gets. The more you check out, the more you suffer. The more gentle, self-honest awareness you bring in, the more presence you bring in, which means learning to expand your capacity to be in different kinds of sensations, right? Expand your capacity to hang out that comfort zone edge. Expand that capacity. The more you bring presence into it, guess what? The more it cleans itself up, because you're aware of it. So feeling the reality of what's working and what's not working is really, really good. It's not a bad thing. It's not negative at all. Yeah. It's only negative if you don't use it in a useful way.
So for this particular chapter, what kind of exercises do you see? I mean, definitely there's the physical exercise you're talking about right now.
I thought about that. Okay.
Super.
So one of the first things I do, and this is the first thing I do in the Discover Your Hidden Passion workshop, one of the first things we'll do for an exercise is we have them simply look at the wheel of life without explaining what it is. Okay? You know, a couple sentences. Okay, this area here is your money. This is how you feel about the amount of money that you have versus the amount of debt that you have versus your financial security. Go ahead and rate yourself in this area on a level of 0 to 10 on how satisfied you are. So rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10 on how satisfied you are. You know, 10 being I'm totally satisfied, wouldn't change a thing. 0 being I'm not very satisfied at all. Then you go to the next area. You look at the love and relationships area. You go, how fulfilled do you feel in this area? That's how it is. How fulfilled do you feel in this area? How satisfied and fulfilled are you? How much would you say that you're thriving on a scale of 0 to 10? And then you go around, okay? Now what you do after you've done that, you kind of rate yourself, is you go back and for each area you take a look at, especially the low-ranking areas, you take a look at what's working and what's not working.
Is there a way to figure out what's working, what's not working? I mean,
You'll know.
You'll know, okay.
For example, take an area of your life. What area of your life you want to talk about? Give you an example. Are you willing to play a little bit?
Yeah, okay. Let's do relationships.
Okay, so relationships. How would you rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10 in terms of how fulfilled you feel in that area?
With friends and things like that, really well.
That's a different area. Friends and family is a different area. Okay. This is just your romantic relationships. Yes.
Real low.
Okay, we'll give it a number.
Okay, I'll say 3.
Okay, so what I want you to do is just notice what is working in your approach to a romantic relationship. What is working? What are you doing that's working? Let's celebrate what's working first.
I'm not doing anything. I don't do anything. Although yeah.
So what's working? You're kind of enjoying life as it is right now?
Yeah, I'm enjoying life as it is. I have a kind of a relationship with a new guy.
Okay.
That might be fun.
So you are dating.
But
that's working.
Yeah, at least they're phone calls and yeah, we see each other.
Okay, so you got a couple things that are working. You got a couple strengths. And what's cool is you can borrow some of the strengths from your other parts of your life too.
Yeah.
Like you're very detail oriented when you want to be.
Yeah, I can.
So you could always apply that strength to this area. Now, what's not working? What do you honestly know? Now, here's the way to do it. What do you honestly know? What do you honestly know is holding you back from thriving in the area of a relationship? If you're just dead honest with yourself.
Okay, dead honest with myself. Sheesh.
And here's the way to think about it, Lucy, because this is an important piece for the book. If you had if like discomfort or pain, like if there was no fear of discomfort or pain, what would you do to have the kind of relationship that you want? Okay, so forget about that. Let's go back to the first question. What do you honestly know is holding you back from having the kind of relationship that you really want right now? Like, what's really getting in the way?
My life is just confused right now.
So how are you stopping yourself or preventing it from actually happening?
Stopping relationships?
Yeah.
I don't have any time for it.
Okay, so you're not making time for it.
I'm not making time for it. I'm not prepared to invite people to my house right now because it's a mess.
Okay. So what are you actually doing right now to keep people away?
Yeah. I'm putting up this, I don't have time for stuff.
Yeah.
And
so you distract yourself.
And I don't want people to look in too closely because I'm not feeling maybe not feeling real lovable.
Yeah. So you have a strategy then that actually keeps people away.
Yeah.
Is you act like you're busy all the time.
Yeah.
And you don't make an opportunity for them to even get to know you.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you're really good at that.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you want to really start to thrive in a romantic relationship, if you want that, then you realize that that is a strategy that you're going to want to take a look at. So and what's really interesting is if you get really grounded and honest with yourself, you realize what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're really working hard right now at keeping people away because you know there's another party that kind of wants it. Now notice the discomfort you have in your body when you actually think about stopping that and letting them in. It feels very uncomfortable, doesn't it? Yeah. So one thing you can do is you can actually deal with that discomfort, which is always the best practice. That's the ultimate practice. Is hang out with it and feel that and just realize, acknowledge right now you're getting exactly what you want.
Being left alone.
Yeah. And it's working.
Yeah.
Yeah. And acknowledge that you have a lot of discomfort with letting someone in. Like it just kind of hurts, the idea of letting someone in. So you're getting what you want. Yeah, and you can just feel that and you can let it in and absorb it and go, wow, this is really interesting. I'm actually getting what I want, and I have a lot of discomfort with allowing someone to come in. So now you can rejoice. You don't have to be upset anymore about not having someone come into your life because you realize, hey, I'm keeping them away. I don't want to deal with it right now. So to help you thrive in a relationship, one of the things I would want you to do is work on being okay in the midst of actually having one. Like being okay in the midst of actually letting someone see you and connect with you. And like imagine being okay slowing down long enough to let someone grab you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So notice when you get grounded and you start to feel that, suddenly that's when you start to get access to this ability to transform. You now start to feel the possibility. Do you kind of get that?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you take a look at what's working, right? And you go, what do I honestly? Yeah.
Okay.
But what's not working. So that, and I think that line of questioning there works pretty well. I could tweak it a little bit for different people. But I love to do it. I'll go, look, what do you honestly know you're doing to keep people away? So in other words, I take this attitude that they're powerful. Yeah. I take this attitude that you're already getting what you want, even though you may not be consciously aware of it. Right. Okay? And so you realize that gives you power, that gives you control, that makes you start to understand how awesomely dynamic that you are and how you are an extremely powerful, gifted being. And you're really good at keeping people at bay. Rosie is really good at keeping people where she wants them. But she's got huge barrier there. Yeah, and you can see it actually. Can't you see that barrier with her that she puts up?
I never thought of it as a barrier, but
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And that's a strategy that she's using. Here's what's really cool. Once you see your pattern, so now you kind of see that you have this pattern, you feel this pattern, and you go, look, I have this pattern of keeping people at bay. Right? Kind of like I'm busy, I'm whatever, but I have this pattern of keeping them away, and I acknowledge that I don't want them to see me. Right. I do not want to be seen. What's beautiful is now you can see this as a pattern, and you now start to make the distinction between the pattern and you. It's not me, that's just a pattern. That's something that I can do. I have that ability if I want it. And so that is why, see, when you get someone really grounded in where they're actually at, right? So you get clear on what the ultimate goal is, but then you help them get really grounded on where they're at. And that is such an important piece of getting them from the A to the B. And most people skip over this. They go, well, to have a great relationship, here's what you need to get on Match.com and just no.
Yeah, okay.
No. Yeah, there's a reason why you're not on there. If you're not on there.
No,
Yeah.
I just think that you put yourself out there when you want to be, where you want to be, where you're going to meet people who are like you and whatever.
Yeah.
And I have met people that way, but I just haven't put myself out there in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. And it works really well for you.
Yeah.
So you can embrace that and enjoy that. You can appreciate the pattern that you have used that has worked so well for you. And now you're not making yourself wrong. You're not beating yourself up. You're feeling powerful. You're knowing you're getting exactly what you want. And now you can go, now let me consider, what do I really want now? Do I want this? I'm getting this. That's cool. Okay, I got that. But what do I really want? What do I honestly know will be in my best interest, will give me the greatest amount of love, joy, fulfillment over the longest period of time? So get them grounded where they're at first, then help them develop the ultimate goal. Get them grounded first, then develop the ultimate goal. Very important. That make sense? Okay, good. I think we need to wrap up pretty soon, too.
If you have a copy of that wheel thing, if you could give it to me.
Let me do that, and let me see if I can get this for you real quick.
Super. Can you email that to me, Found?